So, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everybody, wherever you are. And this is the first day of international training program on climate change. I have given the link to the participants, to very few participants, and many people are joining in YouTube. So, before we start, I want to welcome you all to the international training program on climate change, adaptation, and mitigation. And I should say, I would express my heartiest gratitude to the aspect team, DICE Consortium, and the community safety for encouraging me and inspiring me to do this training program and welcome you all. So, I welcome our speakers. Today, we will hear from Mr. Andre Mozart and Dr. Tim Pasco. They are very efficient speaker, and Mr. Andre Mozart dedicated his life in teaching and developing courses across most business and commercial subjects for different audiences, from enterprise resources, from primary to secondary to college and higher education departments of United Kingdom and many other countries. He has taught economics and accounting for higher education institutions, undergraduate and MBA programs, University of Cape Town, London, School of Economics and University of Wales. And in 2013, he received an award for Best Undergraduate Teacher at the Royal Docks Business School of Graduation. He has developed a Level Up 3 Social Technology STEM Award, promoting young people to access the STEM careers with the Nuffield Foundation. And he was a recipient of HEFC UN Limited Social Enterprise Award for Employability Training and Development. So, Mr. Andre Mozart, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sanghamitra. That's great. I think I was planning that Tim would go first, but that's no problem. I will go first, and I'll talk about climate change and adaptation, and just get us into the context of the presentation. I just need to share my screen. Tim, will you just keep an eye on everything and just tell me if there's a problem, okay?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to try and share my screen. Can my screen be seen?
Yes.
It's flashing at the moment.
Right. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much. As I said, we're very pleased to be here, along with my my line manager, Dr. Pasco, and he'll talk more in after me about the DICE consortium. I'm going to just have a quick run through the whole thing of adaptation and mitigation, and I'm sure all of us on this call are very conversant in issues around climate change. But just to give a bit of context in terms of the at the end of my slide presentation, you'll find the links to where all the slides have come from. Because what I've done is I've pulled slides together from different presentations because they're much better than any slides I can make. So if we think about it, I mean, we all know that time is running out. Okay, we've got to the stage now where we are seeing far more frequent extreme weather conditions, disruption to weather patterns, and our global temperatures are rising. And so, I mean, it's clear that we need to take action. If we look at the trajectory, and we can see in recent years, and it's fairly common for us to hear that this was the hottest day that has been registered in the UK for 10 years, etc., etc. And quite interestingly enough, I heard recently about a storm in Puerto Rico where the weather forecasters had predicted 4 liters of water per square meter. They in fact got 75 liters per square meter. So we are seeing extreme weather conditions becoming much more common. And I think for our colleagues in India, I know Dr. Pascoe and I were in India a few years ago when we experienced the monsoon, and neither of us had ever seen rain like that before. So many of you are quite used to fairly extreme weather patterns that perhaps we aren't used to. So effectively everything is around the greenhouse gases. And as we well know from the greenhouse gases getting trapped within our atmosphere, creating the conditions for enhanced or increase in temperature. Same sort of scenario. I mean, our main greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, methane, water vapor, all contributing to what, as you well know, is that sort of greenhouse effect and it becomes a feedback loop in terms of trapping the heat, which historically the ice caps would have reflected a lot more sun back into the stratosphere and out from our atmosphere. But with the melting of the and everything, we're starting to see a higher proportion of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, and thus more radiation becomes absorbed, and that extra radiation that's being absorbed is leading to the greenhouse effect. So we've got natural processes which also may contribute. We saw the recent volcanic explosion in the Pacific around Tonga, and some analysts have said that could have been the biggest explosion in the last however long. So there, as we're saying, there's more and more implications in terms of these extreme conditions and effectively the human activity. And those of you who know about the naming of the ages, obviously the dinosaurs, it was known as the Jurassic Age. We now are living in the Anthropocene age. In other words, the age which is defined by humanity and the extent that we will leave a significant footprint on this planet. So that, I mean, the greenhouse gases, as I mentioned, water vapor, although water vapor may seem to be a benign gas, it does contribute to the heating of the planet. So it's when combined with all these other things, we are creating that greenhouse effect, which is causing temperature rise. And we'll have a look at what temperature rise implications are. But just to now start to move us towards the regulatory context within which the whole climate change agenda is being assessed. So it's driven by IPCC, which is a United Nations body, and provides policymakers with scientific assessments of where climate change is going. And so, I mean, all of us in this context really are part of the solution, because it's up to us through education and project development to actually start educating young people in terms of our need to actually undergo and to engage in change. So the greenhouse gases, as we're seeing, are major drivers. So again, with the rising temperature, we see ice melt, we see thermal expansion, and the thermal expansion, which is an area that isn't often highlighted in terms of as the oceans get warmer, obviously expands the amount of water or the amount of space that the water actually occupies. So with the ice melt combined with thermal expansion, we are facing a number of challenges. So if we look at how the ice caps have melted, all right, if you see the yellow line, it indicates where the ice cap was in terms of the Arctic in 1981 to 1990. And then the last bit you see from the last 10 years. So we can see there's quite a significant decrease in the ice cap. And obviously, this is resulting in a number of conditions. As I mentioned, extensive flooding, much of the flooding that we're seeing is becoming much more prolific. Deforestation. So, and many of these heartfelt images of polar bears that are struggling with the amount of ice that is available, etc. Now, the main thing, of course, is when we look at, but what is the problem? Sorry. What is the problem? Coral bleaching. So we've seen on the barrier reef that there's been extensive coral bleaching. If it is at 1.5, if we have a temperature rise of 1.5, we're going to look at a 70% loss. A temperature rise of 2 degrees is going to have a 6. So the red shows us where we would be if we have a 2 Celsius rise in the average temperatures on the planet. We're going to see significant loss of insects, plants, and vertebrates. So so we are in a very challenging context in terms of having to mitigate and adapt to try and prevent these changes to temperatures. Now, some have argued that we are past. There's nothing we're going to do to avoid a 1.5% increase in temperature on average, and we're already experiencing it. And other more doomsaying analysts are saying we may see even higher than that. And obviously, well, it's fairly clear what will happen if we have higher average temperature increases. So it is really these key factors that we have to associate with what action do we need to take. And yes, burning fossil fuels, we know is a problem. In fact, in Paris, was it 2015, at the Paris Accord and the Paris meeting, was the first mention of the discussions of fossil fuels and deforestation, reduction of biodiversity. Now comes the nub of the challenge, because as many of our colleagues from the Global South will know, the main emitters are the USA, Europe, and China, contributing up to 60% of the contribution to greenhouse gases and climate change. So we know it's these countries that have to make a significant change. And although they've given pledges in the past at COP meetings to offer financial support to the Global South to change their energy and their climate change footprints, up until COP26, none of those pledges had actually been honored by the global north. And that was one of the significant things of COP26, was the attempt to try and push the parties into trying to ensure that when they make commitments to have a contribution to the Global South, to help the Global South actually address climate change and their economic infrastructure that is contributing to climate change, they haven't yet met those financial agreements. So what does climate change affect? Well, obviously climate change, we know, affects everything, okay? And obviously we've got to start finding a way that we can't expect, for example, developing countries to take a different trajectory to the one that we, as the developed north or the global north, have taken. And so many are accusing it of being unfair, to say, well, you can't do the way it was done by the industrialized countries. So these are significant areas, and areas where we're going to have to discuss things like social justice and fairness and these type of factors. And we have to, as educators, we have to really engage coherently with our young people, which the DICE Consortium has done a number of engagement processes with young people to try and start this momentum. And if I've got enough time, I see I'm running out of time, so I'm going to go a bit quicker and just touching on things like, for example, if you look at the greenhouse emissions in the UK, you can see transport is the major contributor, but you can see that the figures are coming down. The energy supply, the change is significant, because the UK, I think it was in 2020, it was the first time that more energy was generated, electricity was generated through renewables than coal power. Scotland, another example, One of the factors we need to talk about is this movement towards the circular economy. So I'm going to just skip through this because of time and move to the circular economy. And this is really the nub of what we need to be looking at, is how do we develop a circular economy where the raw materials remain within the system and are effectively recycled. And this is the challenge that we're all facing. And these are a number of nodes. And obviously we could spend, we could spend weeks working through all of these and looking at a manner in which we can actually enhance that. But just a quick thought, one of the major areas is food waste. Food waste has a very big footprint, and you can see that the countries that have significant food waste, and we've got to find ways of addressing that by encouraging people. And this is where the education starts to manifest. So we start to adapt our lifestyles in terms of recognizing our contribution to. So if we distinguish between adaptation and mitigation, adaptation is the process whereby we adjust to changes in environment so that we can decrease our climate change impact, and mitigate, find ways in terms of which we can mitigate the impact of climate change and try and reduce the output of greenhouse gases. And I've got a number of things. Obviously, this presentation will be made available. Resilient architecture systems, looking at land usage, perhaps talk about solar radiation management, the idea being that we put reflector shields out in space to try and reflect some of the sunlight. But obviously, all of these type of processes will have other consequences, and we need to be fairly aware of what those consequences are likely to be. Wetland restoration, changing our agricultural practices. Now, we've seen a number of agreements, the Kyoto Protocol, the Paris Agreement, or the Paris Accord, or the Paris Climate Convention, COP21, and all attempting to try and see if we can start to address the problem with these greenhouse gases, right? Carbon taxation, renewable switching, energy efficiency, afforestation, increasing our forest processes, carbon capture, all these factors. I mean, obviously beyond the nature of a quick presentation like this. I've only got 5 minutes left. So what the Paris Agreement did basically was trying to keep the increasing below 2 to try and mitigate to 1.5. And then at COP26, which was in November last year, where the DICE Consortium did a number of research projects to support that. What was agreed? We have the Glasgow Climate Pact, okay, trying to limit temperature rises to 1.5 degrees in line with the IPCC. Significant commitment from China and the USA to decrease their emissions. We'll have to see whether that Paris rulebook, the idea being trying to have an idea around carbon markets, and a global methane pledge to decrease methane, and a pledge to halt deforestation, and also a financial pledge that the global north will meet its global south responsibilities, which it didn't meet on the previous occasions. Obviously, we're all familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals. The key ones when we talk about the climate change challenge, obviously, are those down there: climate action, life below the water, and life on land, as we look at our whole ecosystem. Then we see concepts of negative emissions, the idea that we try and offset the carbon footprint that countries have. But one of the options is to increase the amount of land under plantation in terms of vegetation to create a carbon sink. It has been estimated we need a land mass area 3 times the size of India would have to be planted, and that's probably going to be difficult. Renewable energy sources, we've got to encourage countries to become more engaged with renewable energy sources, but we know large economies, for example, Saudi Arabia and the United States, very dependent on fossil fuels. So how can we fix it? Well, we all have to fix it, okay? It's a collective responsibility, governments, business, all of us have to engage together and work through it. So what is the DICE Consortium doing? Well, you'll hear more about the DICE Consortium from Dr. Pascoe soon. Is we're working on a project called Green Skills for Youth, and in this project, we're looking to transfer, support green employment, address skilling and reskilling of workers, anticipate future change as part of the UN goals. We were engaged with the Hyper Voice project. For some of you will be familiar with that. We also now are presently engaged in development of a staff exchange program, which we're making a submission. If you want to join, you'll see there's a WhatsApp link. And if you join that WhatsApp link, The project is going to be submitted to the European Union on the 9th of March. We're hoping to secure funding for a 4-year period, maximum of 360 person months. There'll be a secondment element where people will be able to spend from a month to 12 months in the EU, or someone from the EU spending time with a partner in the global south. So presently, we have 17 partners in this consortium. There's the link to the WhatsApp group. I'll put it. Is there a chat element? There should be. I'll put it in the chat. Let's just see. Sorry, I'll just have to see where the chat element is. I haven't used Google Docs before. Okay, there's the chat there. I'll put that. This is the link to the WhatsApp group if you want to join it. And do share it with your partners, because that will allow them to become partners. We may not get the funding this cycle around, but we will keep going. Okay. The key, of course, is young people. All right. And as I said, we did a research project for the Global Youth Letter. So the letter that went to the COP26 from the young people, we collated that with DICE, with one of our lead partners, Catalyst and the Queen. It was known as the Hyper Voice for COP26. And we researched a number of countries. But as I say, and the main thing that came out of that was that young people, 3 distinct areas: need for contribution to climate mitigation actions, policy intervention and advocacies, and the need for them to develop skills. And that's the area that our Green Skills project is facing. So I know I've gone a bit quickly, but in a nutshell, if we're going to move to mitigating actions and things and addressing and adapting, what is critical really now is for us to engage in an effective education process and show the consequences. Okay, I'll stop there. Sorry, I'm running a bit over time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Andre, for your valuable lecture. And our next speaker is Dr. Tim Pascoe, who is the Director of Caribbean Crime Prevention and owner of Griffin Research and Consultancy. He is associated with Catalyst in Communities from 2011. He is associated with DICE Consortium, the professional home of community safety, and many other international organizations in United Kingdom and other countries. And today he will speak about international cooperation on climate change and the role of DICE Consortium. So, Doctor, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Right, so I'm going to try and present now. It's my first time with this as well, so be patient with me. So hopefully you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for the invitation, and for especially Dr. Samitra for inviting us. I'm going to give you a quick overview of what DICE is about and how you, if you as an international partner, can engage. I'm going to go and cover some of the previous projects that we've been very successful with, and then look at focus on some of the other potential projects that we hope as partners to deliver. So first off, DICE. DICE is a community interest company, and it's all about developing innovative community empowerment. It's engaging partners in an entrepreneurial atmosphere to learn from each other, to train each other, to take advantage of partnership work. So DICE is about hosting a ecosystem, digital ecosystem, on using things like Basecamp to share our knowledge, to share our opportunities, and to show that social impact can make a real difference. So we drive that innovation by managing networks of knowledge alliances from universities down to social enterprises. And we bring all these like-minded people together to try and work together and deliver projects together. Underpinning all our work is the key themes of employability and innovation. If we can employ people in the right type of environment, like green skills, sustainable jobs, then we've got a future and can make environmental changes. So that's what DICE is about. I'll give you a quick overview of some of our partners and projects so you can give an indication. And I apologise if I haven't got everybody's logos up here. This is just a short sample showing where we're working with ASIC University in Egypt, to South Africa, to social enterprises in Spain, to universities in the UK and in India. So we've got a lot of projects, a lot of partners already in place, and more of us are joining every day. I'll give you a quick overview of some of our very current and past projects. Andre has already alluded to our Global Youth Letter. This was a major project that we undertook for the British Council, and it was about engaging young people, getting young people's voice and understanding on climate change, so that could be fed directly into the COP26 project on climate change. We and our in-country partners were asked to engage those young people by surveys and various other means to get their views, to feed that information in. We were working in over 22 countries. We engaged with about 8,000 young people, all in a very short time period, all through COVID. So it's a very challenging project, but a very successful one. It just shows how the DICE framework can work for all of our partners. So that's a very timely one on climate change. We do lots of other social impact projects, and I'll just cover a few of the others, and then we can go on to perhaps the future. Another one that's quite relevant at the moment, and digital skills has a big impact for our future on climate change, and using digital online leads to significant savings environmentally. We again were asked by the Commonwealth Foundation to do a skills audit of young people, where we were talking to the youth, we were talking to universities and higher education experts, and also to policy people. And again, that was a partnership project from Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, the Maldives, Pakistan, where again we all came together using the DICE base camp to share that information and manage that project. So again, a very up-to-date one that has just been completed, showing again employability, entrepreneurship, and green elements. Another area we've been asked by Aspect, which is a network of UK universities whose aim is to try and bridge the gap between academia and the business and the real world, and showing that social sciences have a very relevant role to play in everyday people's lives and everyday's business. We were asked to do some training for them and to run some of their events, and we undertook that and delivered training to a number of international partners on consultancy, on research, on bidding, and through that we were able to produce and deliver a number of current enrolled and running projects. I don't know if we've got Dr. Manjari here in the audience. If not, she is an architect from India. She's the president of the Building Security Association in India, and she put together a designing out crime project called SHIELD, which is very relevant. And of course, perhaps the most important one today is our third one there, the comparative analysis of climate change in 2 megacities of India. And I'm not going to steal anybody's light today, and Dr. Sanghamitra will be talking to you about that fascinating project. Again, that came through the DICE consortium and projects we manage. Other quite interesting ones, we've ran a refugee one quite recently, and that was again about refugees and employability and making people, refugees, receiving countries, receiving communities, more aware of the issues the refugees have suffered, but also, and equally importantly, the experience and what refugees can offer our community. So again, that was funded under European Erasmus project. We've had a number of those, and we plan to have a number more. We're also running one called Youth Against Fake Web News. Again, this is an Erasmus project. It's a digital project. It's working and training youth workers and other people who engage with young people directly, so they are aware of the dangers of the internet, aware of the false news that can be put out there that might bias their opinions, and also helps them avoid things like fraud. And there's lots of things like catfishing and that type of thing that they give advice on how to avoid. I think Andre noted that we've also got a link with the Institute of Community Safety, which is a leading practitioner for the UK. And again, one very effective way of reducing crime, making your community safer, is if we can get young people into jobs. So again, we've got a theme of employability that runs through a lot of the DICE projects. We've also done a digital community hub. This was looking at a local establishment in the community during COVID and how we could support it to support the people who used it in nutrition, in marketing, and that type of approach. So it was a digital response to a local thing. And it was using digital online. So we've not only got employability, but we've got digital skills that underpin a lot of our work. And again, another recent project, which is the League of Fitness, supported by UK and some of our Indian partners. The League of Fitness is an app aimed at middle-aged, overweight men like me, how we can engage us into becoming fitter and healthier with exercise and diet using an app which has been developed. It's focusing on us. So again, there's a social angle there, there's an employability angle there, there's a digital angle there. Again, I'm going to stop these examples soon because I'm sure you've got all the message. This is another Erasmus project looking at the elderly and then building up their digital skills, helping them engage for the third age. So that's a lot of our projects, and I've hopefully clearly illustrated the capability of DICE already in securing work and delivering work. These are just a few of the areas that you as partners out there, if you're not already engaged, might be interested in. The first one is esports for employability. That's using sport to engage young people into jobs. And when we're talking about sport, we're talking about sport in a holistic sense. It's not just playing, it's supporting, it's marketing, it's running sport as a business. Whole raft of entrepreneurship available there. We're also running Green Skills for Youth, which is very relevant to our climate change theme today. Andre talked about that. But to have sustainable climate change, we need to engage our young people in sustainable green jobs rather than CO2 emitting jobs. We need to get them as part of the future. And again, green skills is actually key to that. Because young people are our future. We created these issues, but they're the ones who are going to be dealing with those issues in the next few decades. Employability for the world, we're going to go on to that in a minute. STEM, I'm sure you're already all aware of science, technology, engineering, maths areas we can all work at. Radicalisation, again, is an area that we've got all the links and we can work on. Other areas that we'd like to focus on are robotics, heritage and culture. We're currently running a project on leader seeds, which is about digital training. And again, we're also doing one for the higher education and further education on digital skills. So just making that point again, that we are trying for digital, for youth, for employability, for social issues. One particular area that we're very excited about at the moment is the employability for you and the Yes Passport. And again, as Andre said with his, we'll share these slides afterwards. So there's a lot of detail on there, but I will give you a feel for what both schemes are about. They're all about youth and employability in using two models, linked tools that we believe are going to help our youth in any country in the world. We want a digital solution that's scalable, so we've produced the E4 model, which is a youth digital ecosystem online, and we produced the Youth Employability Skills Passport. Together, they give young people a great opportunity to learn, to audit what their skills are, have the resources to get assignments, to build up where those skills might be lacking, or to gain even further skills. The Yes Passport is an exceptionally good way of recording that information. So together, they audit the young person's skills and they record them in a way that businesses actually relate to. A lot of young people we often work with have had very challenging environments. They may not have engaged with school. They might be young refugees. They may not have all those traditional qualifications, but they've got lived experience. They've got a lot of skills there that we can capture and illustrate in this process. So the Employability 4 model is the website ecosystem. The Youth Employability Skills Passport is the app that can be downloaded, and all the links will be shared afterwards and be put into it. How it kind of works, it organises learning into a number of categories, and these are the categories that businesses actually take an interest in. These are what businesses want, not your traditional CV that a lot of young people who've never really done anything, been at school, can put in. It's about responsibility, self-management, taking account for yourself. How can you work with other people? Teamwork. Are you aware of businesses, customers? What's your decision-making like? How can you communicate? All of the essential skills. And if you haven't done any of that, then we provide through the E4 model projects online that you can collaborate on in small teams to gain all this experience, or you can run your own small local community projects to get that experience. So it's about self-management and taking responsibility. So you can get contracts or assignments through the E4 system. So clearly assignments that will build up on particular skills that you think are lacking, or the audit said that you could perhaps build upon. It shows, and by running and actually taking part in the assignments, it actually evidences that you can work effectively with people. You can chair a meeting. You've supported your team, you mentored other people. All of these is actually recorded in an effective way. Shows you know what key customers are because you've actually ran a project to sell, to engage, to pull people in. That plan, that project had a financial implication. Here was that financial planning. And the Yes Passport and the website provides all that support you might need to fill in these passport examples. I'll go on a little bit because it's all very clear in these things. It's a very clear tool. And we're now getting a lot of international partners who are very interested in promoting and using these tools. And as you can see, there's a number of them already. And if you're not a partner and would be interested, please engage with us in the DICE consortium and see what role you would like to play. I'm running out of time, I think, myself, so I'm going to just look at the future. The future of the DICE, we're certainly looking at some potential calls that you as all partners, I'm sure, would be interested in collaborating. So again, we've had a great success, you've already seen, with existing Erasmus projects funded through Europe. And we've got some coming up, and the deadline's 23rd of March. The Marie Curie staff exchange Andre's talked about. I'll use his same slides and just re-emphasize it again in a minute. Horizon Europe's coming up in October, and we have plenty of other projects and opportunities that once you join our base camp, then you'll be privy to them and be able to pick and choose which ones you would like to join. And once we have all your partner details there, then it makes writing of these particular grants even easier. If you want to join the base camp, MedHat's email's there again. That'll be in the PowerPoint then when we share it afterwards, for those who haven't got it. If Andre's speaking, he might be able to even put it in the chat for you as I'm talking. Just to go on, this is the same slides as Andre put, but the current one that we're having a big push on is the Marie Curie staff exchange, where there is a significant budget, and we are hoping to take part in it. We're putting our project together for the 9th of March. We already have a number of partners. The detail of it is there will be a 2-week training period, and then you will spend time with your EU partner, and the EU partner also may spend time with the other international partner. As you can see, there's a significant amount of money to apply for, and for a significant period of time. We've already got 17 partners who are interested. That's 8 from the EU and 9 from the outside. But please, if you think you've got the networks and would like to take part, let MedHart know, and we've still got time to add you to that. Also, it's the recognition that often we don't get through first time on some of these research bids, but we get significant feedback, and then we put it into the next cycle, and we're often even luckier on the second and third cycle, which is again one of the lessons that we've delivered in our grant and research training program is don't get too downhearted if you don't get through first time. If we're lucky to get through first time, even better. So I'm going to finish off now. I think I'm on schedule. But using our digital platform, already 50 plus partners have been engaged, enhanced their abilities, taken part in our programs, generated funds, and we're still engaging and still working. So we fully appreciate all the help and support that our partners bring to DICE, and we're looking to grow it even further. And I'm looking forward to hearing Dr. Samhitra's particular talk, because she came through that process, so she's living evidence it works. So thank you again. If you want to be a DICE member, or you want the Yes app or anything like that, just keep in contact one of us. So thank you for your time, and I am going to be here for any questions and to listen to our next Fascinating talk. So thank you for your time.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Dr.
Tim.
T.
I've put the link to the WhatsApp group and the Instagram for DICE in the chat if anyone wants to hook up. And on WhatsApp, you'll be able to get hold of Medat as well.
Okay, thank you all. And Medat will be heading up the base camp for us, so he's another key contact.
Thank you, Dr. T, for your valuable lecture. Thank you. And now I am going to share my slides about megacities and climate change. Yes. So today I am going to tell about climate change and megacities in India. Climate change is really a problem today, and the megacities, especially the Indian megacities, are centers of economic growth, centers of innovation for the national and global economy and the hinterland of their respective nations. But they are also important centers of population growth, and the high population density and large number of economic, health and educational facilities turn the megacities into centers of pollutants, and these pollutants, they impact on their environment. Emissions to the atmosphere of trace gases and aerosol species such as carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides, volatile organic compounds, ammonia, sulfur dioxide, particulate matter mainly 2.5 to 10 micrometer in diameter, tropospheric ozone, black and organic carbon are prominent byproducts of human activities in megacities. So, the causes of these pollution and deforestation, lack of open space, lack of rainwater infiltration and haphazard construction for this environmental degradation in megacities, and many diseases are strongly influenced by climatic conditions and several are common within the cities. Global environmental changes now favor the emergence of new infectious diseases which now spread faster within and between the cities due to travel links and high rates of person to person contact. The objective of these research works are to provide knowledge and skills to increase the awareness about climate change, to create data analysis and digital opportunities in the climate change, and to achieve sustainable livelihood. Remote sensing and geographical information system based solutions are used to strengthen the climate literacy chain in the urban regions with low carbon development strategies, to position themselves as major drivers in climate change mitigation and setting an example for the development of national emission reduction policies as well. So these are the sources of big data. Across science and engineering fields now, remote devices, especially remote sensing sensors, are increasingly used to measure and record data for multiple parameters at high frequencies, reading every 15 minutes or even more frequently and over long time spans for many years. These sensors provide records of change in climate and other terrestrial phenomena that are essential for research and monitoring tools. These sensor technologies are now used to collect high frequency data on ecologically relevant variables ranging from soil moisture to stream conditions to correlating animal movements with environmental conditions. So these are the data sources which are available online free of cost. Now I'm going to tell about temperature change. During 1901 to 2003 average long-term temperature change in these megacities increased by 0.5 degree centigrade per decade at an all India average mean surface temperature rate. The recent period from 1971 to 2003 has seen a relatively accelerated warming of 0.22 degrees centigrade per decade. It has increased to 0.24 degrees centigrade per decade during 2004 to 2020. Temperature over Delhi at 850 hectopascal exhibit a positive trend of 0.25 degrees centigrade per decade, whereas Kolkata shows a trend of 0.05 degrees centigrade per decade. These big cities will reach a state of severe water shortage and stress before 2025, when the water availability per capita is projected to drop down below 1000 cubic meters per year compared to the level of 1820 cubic meters per year in 2001. Urban biodiversity, which is referred to varieties of species living in an urban area and the presence of adequate biodiversity in the city regions, depicts the health and productivity of its ecosystem. In the absence of biodiversity, an area is usually depicted as unhealthy and lack of severe basic necessities for the flora and fauna. The human-induced environment makes biodiversity difficult to thrive and flourish. Kolkata has been losing some rare species of trees and birds. A preliminary report on the city's biodiversity has revealed that indigenous varieties of trees like banyan, people, mango, babul, and neem are becoming scarce compared to the study that was conducted some decades ago. So, these data indicates the health conditions of cities, air quality index, and concentration range of pollutants, by which we can categorize the level of city environment into good, moderate, unhealthy, unhealthy for sensitive groups, very unhealthy, and hazardous. Indian cities, mainly megacities, are in the group of red, unhealthy to very unhealthy condition, for in the case of Delhi and Kolkata. And these data these ranges are created by Central Pollution Control Board, CPCB, Ministry of Environment, Government of India. And air quality index, which megacities can cause very big urban smoke, urban heat island which is closely related to the increased size of cities. The temperature difference between the central part and the surrounding city increases with increasing size of the cities. In Delhi, poor air quality damages the lungs of 2.2 million or 50% of all children. The concentration of particulate matter, mainly 2.5 to 10 micrometer or other greenhouse gases, is relatively lower in 2020 due to lockdown effect, but this is a temporary case. The concentration of particulate matter is very in severe condition in the Indian megacities. So, I am coming to extreme weather events in megacities. The Indian subcontinent has witnessed more than 478 extreme mega events since 1970, and the frequency of such events has gone up since 2005. Three extreme climatic conditions, mainly flood, drought, and cyclone, are found in these areas. In terms of its intensity as well as frequency, these events have begun to hit megacities really hard. India is already the fifth most vulnerable country globally in terms of extreme climatic events, and it is all said to become world's flood capital. The frequency, intensity, and unpredictability of these extreme events have now risen in recent decades. The irregularity with which such events have begun to occur is really unpredictable and causing miseries to the local inhabitants. Based on the observed cyclonic activities between 1891 and 2019, on average, while at least 5 cyclones developed over North Indian Ocean in a year, with an average of 4 cyclones are developing over Bay of Bengal and 1 cyclonic activity developing over the Arabian Sea. The number of deaths due to the floods is minimum in Delhi, as it is an inland station as compared to other 3 megacities. The casualties are maximum in Mumbai, and landslides also cause increase in deaths and damage in Mumbai. Kolkata is very close to sea, Bay of Bengal, and is inside Ganges Delta plains, so it is prone to flooding not only due to heavy rains but also due to tropical cyclones. The factors that have caused the steady rise in Delhi pollution levels are urbanization, population growth, lack of awareness and increase in vehicle ownership, growing energy and demand and proximity to individual hubs. Delhi is experienced 54 millimeter rainfall in May, higher than 35 millimeter in 2020. Smog in Delhi, an ongoing severe air pollution event, and adjoining areas in National Capital Territory where air pollution in 2017 peaked on both particulate matter 2.5 and particulate matter 10 levels. The air quality in Delhi has been deteriorating since 1999. Now I am coming to Sustainable Development Goals 13, which is about climate action and is one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals established by the United Nations in 2015. The increasing temperatures in and around megacities will result in local and regional changes, leading to shifts in rainfall patterns and agricultural seasons. In the face of ongoing climate change, poverty, inequality, and environmental degradation, understanding the connections between climate and national development is now a matter of emergency. The impacts of climate change can be reduced by various measures like better forecasting of heavy rain over megacities with the help of Doppler radars, identification of vulnerable zones in and around the megacities against climate risks and improved disaster management procedures, improvement of old drainage system, reinforcement of weak old buildings, and introduction of area-specific building codes. Implementation of health and sanitation measures to prevent spreading diseases and preparation of a long-term plan aimed at diversification of industries and employment opportunities to prevent large-scale migration of population and overcrowding in the megacities. Participation of people to fight against climate change is the most suitable measure for mitigation and adaptation practices which can be taken by common people in their local areas and communities. Adaptation priority actions are the additional burden to developing countries. Educational awareness raising and behavioral change campaigns by training programs, pledges, debates and competition can encourage young generation to fight against climate change. The Government of India launched National Action Plan on Climate Change on 30th June 2008, outlining 8 national missions on climate change. These include National Solar Mission, National Mission for Energy Enhancement Efficiency, and many other projects for raising awareness among common people. So this is the reference page. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. S. That was great.
Thank you. So, thank you for joining us, all participants who are joining through Google Meet and YouTube. Thank you for joining today. So, if you have any question, you can ask me.
Not a question, but a thank you for being part of our DICE consortium.
So, I will finish today here. Thank you for joining us. And tomorrow at the same time, our session 2 will continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. See you next time. Do join us on the WhatsApp group, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good day tomorrow.
Thank you.